Oh yeah,
Or is recording.
Okay, did it pop up?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just ran in from the grill. On that note, though, I've asked people for feedback. Is everything in good, considering we're talking online and all that? Is it going reasonably well?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just checking. And I watched your video twice, once a couple days ago, and then once just now out in the rain. And I want to work through, because this is a good problem to review, Rule 1.13. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. What they test on are really specific rules and the buzzwords in the rules. And so I want to, and this one plays off of the favorite word, no. And by the way, so everybody who's listening, we're doing problem 3-4, A, C, and D on page 171. So in the first one, you represent this company, and I want to make sure we get, so that means you're in rule 1.13, whether you're inside counsel or outside counsel. And this makes it clear that it's your outside counsel to a company. You work at a law firm and you represent National Computer. And you learn, Ellen Lee tells you they want to renew this contract, and it's critical. This contract, what does it say? It's essential to the company's business. She negotiated it 3 years ago. They got 6 months less. Want to give as long as they possibly can. And she explains that it was difficult to get the first time, and she says that she had to give something on the side to the vice president of Microchip to get the deal done. So if you look at rule 1.13, the first A says, and I got to look at it on my iPad, I apologize. A says that if you represent a company, you represent the entity. It's okay. You don't represent her. Then, and so I want to point out this might be a place where you have to explain to her who you represent, but I'll get there in a second. Because remember, under rule 4.3 and also under rule 1.13F, it basically says you may clear up with people who you represent. But now look at A, and this is, and I want to make sure we see why we stop. It says if a lawyer for an organization knows, okay, what do you know, right?
Wait, sorry, what'd you say?
Sorry, can you say that again?
What do you know? Based on what this problem says, what do you know?
That it was just something.
They wish to renew their contract.
Right. So I want to renew this contract, and she slipped him something on the side.
Yeah.
So now you could ask her, right? Here, I want to make sure you see this. Right now, you could just say, la-di-da, hoo-hoo-hoo. I don't know that anything bad happened. I mean, what does that mean? Slipped him something on the side. Now, what do you guys think it means?
Something illegal.
Money?
A bribe.
Yeah.
Yeah, something she shouldn't have done, right? Otherwise, she just would have said it was really hard negotiation and I had to pay more than I wanted to, whatever, give up terms. Instead, it sounds like it was something improper. And so, but I just want to see you have a choice. Right now, you could say, I don't know, and this, you don't have to do a thing. Okay, so remember what I said about how often lawyering involves decisions that you make that nobody will know about? This is one of those, because you could just say, oh, okay, and go forward. But that's going to change. The next one tells us we find out what happened, but let's just go with this. So right now under the model rules, it says there's a lot of language in here about how you, and you guys quoted it from the comments about your job is to protect the company. So what would you do? Let's assume you want to do something right now. You don't have to do anything because you don't know. What's that?
Go to someone higher up, and then go to someone higher up
and say she said,
and talk to them,
and say she said she slipped something on the side to him.
Say,
Yeah.
I have this concern. She told me this, and
just because of the tone or whatever,
I guess,
in the language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's work through that. So what if that person says, don't worry about it. That's an important contract.
Then I guess you could withdraw if you felt strongly enough. If
well,
not,
no,
then I guess you.
no, let's look at what it says. Again, we still don't know anything, but look at what B says.
Mhm.
If you know that somebody working there is engaged in action, intends to act, or refuses to act in a matter related to representation that is a violation of the legal obligation to the organization or a violation of law that that reasonably might be imputed to the organization. So if she committed, I apologize, I got my email on. If she committed a bribe, that might be a crime and the company would be held liable for it because the company bribed somebody. And then it says, and it is
Mhm.
likely to result in substantial injury to the organization. You guys talked about this could be a reputational thing. Then the lawyer shall proceed as is reasonably necessary in the best interest of the organization. Unless the lawyer reasonably believes it's not necessary, the lawyer shall refer the matter to a higher authority, including if warranted by the circumstance, to the highest authority that can act on behalf of the organization. So the report out, you go one level. If it's still not, if it's reasonably necessary, you go to the next level, and eventually you're talking to the board or the president of the company, right? And that's why where the next one comes in. So I want to make you see that withdrawal is not an option. If you think something is wrong, you keep going up the ladder under this rule. Withdraw, and to clear this up too, if you look at rule, I can't flip there right now, but rule 1.2 says you shall not counsel or assist a client in committing a crime or fraud. You're not doing that. This is all in the past. Rule 1.16 says you are required to withdraw if you're going to assist them in a crime, and right now you're not doing that. There was a crime in the past. So it's improper to withdraw unless you can fit yourself in one of the permissive ones where you don't like what they're doing thing. Then you may withdraw. But I want to make sure, what does withdrawal mean here? If you're working at a firm, what does it mean?
Does
You
your
just stop
whole
working, right?
firm?
You
Yeah.
get off.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, does your whole firm have to stop working on it, or is it just you stop working on the case?
On this contract negotiation, everybody would have to get off of it.
Okay.
If you feel like you're well, let me rephrase. If it's so repugnant to you personally, everybody else can stay on board. We'll come to the problem with that when we get to D. Actually, C raises it up too. So now, but let's think this through. So I've got to keep going up the ladder until I think I'm done inside. Look at, and again, I just want to try to get the rule out. Look at, somebody play music while I pull it up. No, I got it. Now look, so B says run it up the ladder, okay? And then it says it may include going to the highest organization. I don't know if it's important enough, but I'll come back to that in just a second. So then it says except is provided in D. And D is if you're investigating something, you don't have to do report out. So if you've been hired to track down something and that's not what you've been hired to do, you just found out about this. So it says, except is provided in D, if despite the lawyer's efforts in accordance with B, so you've gone all the way up, it says the highest authority that can act on behalf of the organization insists upon or fails to address in a timely and appropriate manner an action or refusal to act that is clearly a violation of law. So we don't know that, but I just want to make sure you may now made a record that you were very, very concerned about something because you went all the way up the chain. Then it says, and the lawyer reasons that the violation is reasonably certain to result in substantial injury. Then, to boil that down, you can report out. You can go to the FBI, I don't know who you go to exactly, and say, look, here, this person committed a bribe, and I'm convinced it's going to cause substantial injury to the company, and it's clearly a violation of law. So notice I'm so far away from that. All I know is this lady said she had to give something on the side to the vice president. So I'm a long ways of knowing for sure, but now I want to come back and say, you guys didn't, because I want to make sure you see what might happen. What could the vice president of, what's it called, Microchip, do during the negotiation of this contract that would hurt our company, besides talking to the press about what happened or what have you, because that'll hurt him too. what could he do? Because he's got huge leverage over us. This is an important, critical contract.
I guess, I mean, like using the leverage, I guess he could try to get us to pay more, or I don't really know.
Yep. He could, you guys remember, what's his name? Michael Flynn, the president's former
Something.
national director of national security. He was the director of national security. The reason why everyone was, Sally Yates went to the vice president, and I think even the president, had said Mike Flynn lied about talking to the Russians, was the Russians knew Mike Flynn lied about talking to them. They had huge leverage over him. They could say to him, if you don't tell us the nuclear codes, we're going to go to the vice president and tell him you lied. We'll reveal it to the press. We'll reveal the conversations. That's what they were concerned about, was blackmail. Here, there's a potential for that. This lady may give up a lot on this contract, pay more than we need to, give better terms than we need to, because of a threat that it will be revealed that she committed a crime. So there is a substantial injury down there that we need to worry about. But again, I want to stop where we are. Right now, we don't know anything, and we could just move on with our lives. But then we move to C, life gets more difficult. It says, suppose you learn that Ellen, in fact, did pay substantial bribes. Assume further bribery has been brought to the attention of the board of directors. So you have gone all the way up under paragraph B. And then it says the board has taken no action on the matter. Okay, so you're at a place where you could report out if you need to. But then it says some additional facts. Your firm is defending a breach of warranty action brought by one of National's customers. There doesn't appear any relationship between the proceedings, but it's early in the litigation. Discovery hasn't begun. Should you withdraw from that action in light of the bribery? Because you know she's committed a bribe. Let me be real clear. You don't have to, the rule says here that you report up, and the rule that you were focused on, 1.2, says you counsel or assist in a crime or fraud, and that you must withdraw if you know that you're being used to commit a crime or a fraud. Are you in any of that based on what this says? You know she committed a bribe, and there's looks like it's an unrelated lawsuit. What's the risk if you stay in that matter?
Aren't you kind of covering it up? Or possibly covering it up?
I mean, think about where you are. You know your client committed a bribe, and it had to have been serious because you were all the way up to the board of directors. And your firm is still representing the client. So as far as it appears to the outside world, you don't got a problem with this client. If you had a problem where you knew they committed a bribe, that you'd gone all the way to the board of directors, why are you still representing them in some even unrelated lawsuit? Now, to be clear, you're not counseling or assisting in a crime or fraud, right? So you're not in a mandatory withdrawal place unless you think that by continuing, you're assisting them. You're helping to cover up what happened. So this is on the MPRE, this would probably not be a good question because we need more facts. How close are the lawsuit? You know, how serious was the bribe? Does it look like by participating in the lawsuit that we're assisting with the past fraud by continuing the representation? This would be a terrible MPRE question because the answer is, I need a lot more facts to answer it. But the rule, if they turn around, I don't think the next question asks this, no. What if I continue to negotiate that renewed contract? Now am I perhaps counseling or assisting a crime or fraud? In other words, I don't withdraw from the representation of the renegotiation of the contract with Microchip.
I guess if you have information that would make it seem like she would do it again,
well,
would bribe them again.
That's a real problem, right? But the question is, I've gone all the way, remember how important this must be. I've gone all the way to the board of directors about this, of a big company, right? It says it's a large manufacturer of computer equipment. And they're, yeah, sure, whatever, right? I mean, I have not got any action from them. and I am now I'm involved in renegotiating or extending the same contract that the bribe occurred in. Am I counseling or assisting my client in a crime or a fraud? That's pretty close, right? Again, this would be a horrible MP question. What if I changed it to they're seeking to amend that prior contract, so it's just a change to the existing contract, not a new renegotiation or whatever, not a new contract. Now I'm involved in the actual contract that has the bribe in it. Now it sure looks like I'm furthering the fraud because I'm renegotiating the actual contract. Now this is great, right? And that's what I want to make sure. Some of these questions I'm like, that's not a good question because it's hard to resolve. But again, I want to go back to the first point. If you start off and you just turn a blind eye, you're not going to appear in front of the board of directors. Life is very good for you. You just go on with your life and no one will know that she said, because she's never going to say, I don't think, something on the side. And you can always say, well, I thought it was just whatever, right? I didn't think it was that important. Now, what about D? It says, suppose that you know that there was bribery, and the board hasn't taken any action. National has a line of credit with a bank, which it continues to use. In connection with this line of credit, your firm issued an opinion, and this is pretty common. Guy, I used to hate these things. Companies are required to file filings with the federal government. As part of that, they have to say, we're aware of no litigation that's important. We're aware of no matter that's really going to affect our bottom line. Now, if you're involved in a significant thing, you fill out a form and it gets filed with the federal government. If you're not, you write. I wrote 100 times during a year, nothing, because you have to respond to these inquiries. So you get an email that says, or you become aware that there's this filing that says they're not aware of any circumstances. So now what should you do, because you know about the bribe and you've reported it all the way up? And notice you've given an opinion letter. What's a bank going to do with that opinion letter? What has it done? It's extended a line of credit. So it's relying on your word that there's nothing bad going to happen to this company's finances. So what do you do when you know that she's committed a bribe, you know the contract is being renegotiated in a few months, and you know the board hasn't done anything?
I don't know, can you even like retract a statement like that, or would you have to put out a new statement? Or I guess maybe
You got one. I mean, well, how could this have a material effect on the business? How could the fact that she committed a bribe affect the business?
Well, I think it could have a material
effect
on it. Like have a material effect, knowing like your reputation getting out, that your officers, people who are negotiating contracts, are bribing people. And then, I mean, maybe it could affect the line of credit that they have at the bank if their business isn't doing well, I guess.
What could happen? Think about.
Well, if it gets out.
Think about for a second, take it down to the real practical here. It says Microchip vice president committed a bribe. What might happen at Microchip that would make them say, we're not renewing this contract, period?
If they choose, if she doesn't try to bribe them again, like if there's no like additional incentive.
Yeah, or what? Think about who says the vice president did this. Well, if the president finds out about it and he's like a by the book guy, and he says, wait a minute, you took a bribe and they gave you a bribe for this contract, we're not doing business with them anymore. Now, what's the material on National's business? They don't get a contract that it says is vital for it to survive. And now they're screwed. And what happens if they owe money to the bank? It doesn't get paid back. So what do? And you said it, I think, you're in a position where you're probably going to have to issue a revised opinion that says, hey, we are aware of something. You probably wouldn't disclose what it is. Maybe you would, but we are aware of an issue that could have a material effect on National's business. Now, one other option is you withdraw and you tell the bank, don't rely on that opinion letter we gave you. Can't tell you why, but don't rely on it. That's called noisy withdrawal. The final kind of withdrawal is you say to the bank, here's what happened. Now you're supposed to do the minimum amount of disclosures necessary. So changing the opinion letter probably does the trick, because the bank is going to say the law firm knows of something that affects your business. What is it? With noisy withdrawal, still, without saying why, that's still probably in the realm of, okay, that works. Saying something, you don't need, I think, to say something to the bank specific to get to the point where you've cured the problem. You guys wouldn't know that about opinion letters, but if you say to a bank, we know something that is going to have a material adverse effect on their ability to repay this loan, they're going to call you up and say, what is it? You say, I can't tell you. They're not going to give the loan. They're not going to keep the line of credit the same. So watch, the key thing for the MPRE is make sure if you see somebody representing a company, understand how it works. You go up you're required, unless you believe it's unnecessary, you're required to go up the chain. Now, what if you found out somebody's not paying parking tickets on company cars? You go up 2 levels and you say, I'm done. This sounds like it's serious, and you went all the way up. Even that might not be enough if, to protect your client, it's a clear violation of law that's going to cause substantial injury. Then you have to go further, because remember, these people are hurting your client. And you now know it's a clear violation of law and it's going to cause substantial injury. So that's when you are required to report out to, I don't know, the FBI, I'm not sure who it is. But on the MPRE, make sure you watch that. They got to go up as far as is reasonably necessary. Then they may have to report out. They may have to withdraw if there's this kind of a deal out there, or if they're involved in the negotiation. They may have to withdraw. They may have to do a noisy withdrawal, or they may have to do full disclosure and say, here's what happens. And it's a question of doing the least amount that's required to stop the wrongdoing. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they will test you on, and I hate to tell you this, but they will test you on, he only reasonably knew, so he didn't have to do anything. You're not required if you don't know about these things. You're not required if you don't know it's something important, serious, likely to cause serious harm. So watch those stupid triggers. And that's, again, why I had you write them out or fill in the blank with them, because that's the kind of stupid thing. Sorry, MPRE writers. That's the kind of stupid thing that they test on. So with that, is everybody doing okay? Serious question. Hanging in there as well as you can?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Are y'all here?
As good as can be expected.
What's that?
This summer's just been really weird with jobs and stuff.
Yeah, internships are very strange right now.
Yeah.
I know. Did you guys? If you don't look at internships are strange because of how they are.
Like working from home and stuff. Like,
it's
like we're definitely just not getting quite as much out of it as we would if we were like going in the office and stuff.
There's a turn off the recording.
Okay.